are competing in, we are repeating in, we are believing in. It's time for us to shift our mind from best in the world to best for the world. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. It creates a new world to mind a shift, intentionality, perceptuality, conceptuality. We are choosing to shift our mind to best for the world, best for our world. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional.
Welcome to this concept called trusts, and this is a part of the Best for the World broadcast. The trust is a concept that we wanted to explore. A couple of years ago, we started out an idea that we're now going to talk about, and also talk about how trust can be regained in organizations and between organizations to make sustainable development sustainable. And with me here today, my name is Stellan Nordahl, and with me here today I have Pontus Rystedt and Mats Rosén. Welcome, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, so starting out, before we just throw ourselves into this, maybe we should give some short bio, short. Myself is, I'm a person very eager to explore and to engage in things. So I have a lot of ideas, and one of them was a couple of years ago connected to this idea of how can we work with trust in organizations on different ways. I work as often as a consultant, but not necessarily. I can engage in any organization in many different ways. So that's a little bit about me. I really love people. I'm a people guy. So that's a little bit about me. Who wants to take the next?
Okay, I can do that. Pontus Rystedt. I really want things to be better in many ways. So I work with innovation, and I help organizations also to do innovations very much with trust, because it's going away from the controls that we very often have in organizations to a more trustful organizations will also spur innovation, I think. So that's my take on this.
Thank you. Mats?
Yes, Mats Rosén. I work with on the public sector to assist enterprises to be the best of themselves, to develop and get the position for the future, and involves quite a lot of trust to be a good partner, to partner from the public side, but also to deliver to the public sector. All the means we have our public money comes by trust between the population and us civil servants. So you have to also be aware that it's not my own risk money, it's the public's money.
But on the other hand, I know that you mentioned, I don't know when it was and in what context, but I've heard you say that the public sector has a very strong why. Can you explain what you meant by that? Because I believe there's something there.
On the local community level, like where I'm working right now, I also been on the regional level and work also on the state sector in Sweden. All have a very specific why, and the local sector is actually the easiest one, because it's all those factors, those entities you can't perform yourself. You can't provide yourself with water and wastewater. You can't provide yourself with electricity. You can't provide yourself with all the services you need. So that's the reason we do it together. And that's a very strong why. Many of my colleagues haven't really realized this, that we have one of the strongest, I would say, why we exist. I have a bit of, I would say, self-denial that actually we are not performing as well as you do in the private sector. But I think it's the opposite. When you explain this to my colleagues, they really realize why we are there. And you emphasize that you also build a trust organization. They don't have to work on control. Of course, public money has to be controlled, but how we work is it's not needed to be controlled in that way.
No, I totally agree there, because as you mentioned it this way, I would say you also have a strong how, as at least it should be like that, because it's about together, and that's a control system in itself, not necessarily there to, or more maybe a quality system as you work together rather than a control system, but it has that effect. And I mean, working together would, at least from my point of view, mean trust. I don't know if you agree here, Pontus and Mats, but can we even work together without trust?
No, I don't think so. It's horrible in an organization when you're not trusting your colleagues.
What do you think?
It's more like a mob mafia.
Okay.
And I mean, and transparency is one of the key issues, at least in the public sector in Sweden. I mean, all our what material we produce and all are public. That means you have to build on trust that are we doing anything? It must be viable for anyone to look into. And that builds a trust system, not a control system, because then you end up in DDR.
Pontus, what is your take on this?
I think that it's the trust is because every system needs some sort of control or anyway. So, but this we could actually have trust as this control, but then we have to completely think other things about what control is.
Yeah, I guess so, and that is actually why we're also here in this dialogue, because we have other ideas on how that could be done, and we have tried out one way to work, and that is in what we call trust, where we connect people from different parts of society and see how we can form new ways of working, maybe I should say, rather than a new society, because I believe that we are in a society and we can never have a new one. We can reform it maybe, or reinvent it, or reorder it, or whatever we do. But that's the best we have, and we also have tried it out for a while, and we have even ended that first, maybe not ended, but the first trust has more or less gone into, I don't know what it was very focused on for like 1.5 years, and Mats, you were part of one of those trusts, and we had a lot of effects coming out when people connected on a new way. Anyone of you who want to share your experiences from this?
I would say it's enlightened you that we can look on the same thing from different angles, and when we understand our partners, or co-workers, or companions, that means that you work with outside your organization, it builds a trust both to yourself. I mean, it must start in yourself. You have to be you have to have trust in yourself that you're able to perform what you're doing, of course. And you are realizing the framework, of course, because it's very important, however, because we have very bad examples also, distrust, and how it spreads very easily. I mean, corruption is one of the worst cases in the world because people rely on the public sector to be independent and not prejudiced by bribery. And it also in Sweden, you are on the was at least on the lowest part of the corruption index in the world. We've seen, especially on local level, but also on state-owned companies like Fastighetsverket. We've seen in Göteborg awful examples of how when it comes into an organization house, it's almost impossible to stop at this because it feeds itself. It's like cancer. And that spreads a distrust because you never know. It turns into a mob society. And with the mob, I mean mafia, but in English,
so trust is actually the antidote of
it is.
That's what you say, the antidote to corruption. Okay, Pontus, do you want to add something there?
Well, coming back to this, the trusts in that we have performed then with this group of people, I think it's fascinating to see how we can discuss what type of core beliefs or that we have had, that we actually share in this society, but some of those that we would like to actually change in some way, and how we could go about to do that. I was a very strong experience from my side.
So what you're talking about here is like how we look at the world and how we look at organizations, how we look at leadership, how we look at mostly everything that a lot of truths we more or less take for granted are not truths. It's more like assumptions we have made collectively and just maybe unconsciously accepted. So that's what you're talking about here. That was one of the first things that we did actually, and that was a very transformative experience. I totally agree. And Mats, you were also part of such an event just before we started out with the trust. We went to Singularity University 3 years ago, was it something like that, for a transformative workshop we had with us when we went to, it was in this case in Denmark, and it was all about an idea of if we put ourselves into our own shoes in the future and look back, what can those tools we use for the development of organization society help us to come where we are. and we realized now we have to update them.
It's very strong method to do that, to imagine yourself in the future and looking back what happened. But it's very strong tool. However, it's changing. It's a changing moment for your colleagues, your co-workers, if you do that, and that you have to build new trust there, because you often believe in what you see, your walls, your desk, your tools you have in front of you in daily work, and when you see them from another perspective, it can actually be liberating, of course, but it can also be a fear that you feel, and you have to regain that trust into the organization. Would you trust over everything you have? That's the reason you go to work. You go to your clients, you meet them, because you have a trust there, and that's a part of you. And when you see that, it's a great shifting. And we saw that with the students, that they were really amazed, and some of them couldn't handle it. It took a while, especially one of the manager there. She couldn't handle that in her organization. So, but because we trust in those models we are working with. as
Yeah,
well.
that's right. You trust in the models, and we don't even question why we use them, more or less.
No.
One of the models and tools was the SWOT analysis, which is very often used in various types of organizations to go forward with a strategy. And that was the one that got most critics from this workshop. But not only critics, it was also that we didn't criticize them. What we did was more or less to update them. And we also performed this with all the, we have been up running 3 thrusts at, for now. And we have tried this transformative workshop with all of them. And from my point of view, it's an interesting journey to see what happens with both myself and with people around me when we go into something with, well, what can I say? Maybe we can call it uncertainty, but we can also call it possibilities. So we go into a room and we come out there with a totally more or less new worldview. And that's interesting, actually. So, yeah.
Especially in business sector, because it's somewhere it's has been driven by unconscious motto that that's greed is good, and it is not. It's actually one of the 7 death penalty, one of the sins, and because it drives the all wrong intentions you have. And to see, because we questioned there was underlying this.
Yeah, definitely. So just to give some examples for the listeners here, and it was about how can we choose, for instance, togetherness before a competition, and is it possible, and what happens, and stuff like that. And also I would say how we look at success. Is success to win, or is success connecting what we say and what we do, and to be congruent in that? Then success, the former version of success, is just a small part of what can be said. Pontus, you have also just to mention, maybe you have also worked with those kind of ideas in different countries. You and I, we had also during the trust, we made almost half of the participants in the trust engaged in this workshop in different. It was during a seminar series called the Skåne Innovation Week. So we did that, and then one of them also in Stockholm together with students from an MBA. Couldn't you tell us a little bit about that, because it was in the same time period, if I remember it right?
Yes, we had we had the opportunity to work with a class, an MBA class in Los Angeles, coming to Stockholm, and we did this workshop there as well. And it was amazing to see how they actually transformed very, very rapidly, got into this to the mode and the thinking, and the workshops afterwards. Also, I remember this guy that said, well, we need a complete new definition of profit, for example. And so they all had these kind of ideas what a kind of society they would like to build going on.
And talking about a new way to look at the profit or definition, and also a new way to look at the business at the whole. And Mats, you have a lot of thoughts about that. You've been engaged in that's actually what you do in the municipality, helping out. Maybe you should explain, because I don't really know what you do. I'm just part of all of those ideas. I don't know exactly what it is, but maybe you can tell us a little bit about entrepreneurship as you see it, and business.
Yes, it is a lot about togetherness basically, of course, and of course also take care of those who can't be a part of the common. That's a basic objective. You have a local community to the weakest part of society, weakest, I would say, persons, people. With that in mind, you also realize how you should interact with others, and that's to strengthen them, because then that it's not about competition there. It's actually about strengthening the local network, the local structure that builds a sustainable future based on local values, I could say. And promoting these also have of course the open eye of also they need to reinvent, like Pontus started with. How could they perform better? How can we support them to perform better, to have more knowledge, new knowledge, even new technology into their business? My idea is that if you can connect them with the world around them and open up, because many SMEs are very focused because they have only 2 or 3 months ahead. They know what income they will have, the orders they're offering, and to build a stronger network that they could rely on more. I think that's one of the structure where they can grow and in a sustainable way, and not always competing with the price. Price is, of course, as a consumer, it's very good. That means you can, if you have the same quality, you can choose that. But you don't know the quality, how the product or the service is produced, then it's not sustainable, even if it's a good price for you. Because it's a tough price for the worker or the society, either the environment or the person. I think, and in the public sector where we have the public procurement, this has been one of the thresholds, so to emphasize on quality, but also how it is produced. I mean, the sustainability in it. And we've seen bad structures taking into public procurement, and how to get them, hold them out. I mean, there's where you have subcontractors that are not sustainable in the working conditions and how they are financed. This builds distrust to the system of public procurement, and I know many want to do that because they don't want us to be. So shifting from just the price to other values in the assessment of a public procurement is one of the, I think, one of the keys to a more sustainable society.
And coming back to the trusts and how what the results came out from them, I'm thinking here of, wasn't you a part of the think tank activities in Lund municipalities? That was one of the results from the trust, that we gathered people. We talked about a little bit in the previous episode, me and Pontus, and I was thinking of, I think you were part of that. We went through almost not exactly the same workshop, but it was more about fundamental assumptions, principles, and resilience. And how can we talk about, and how can we choose another worldview concerning, if we start there with profit, and we start with competition and replace it or redefine it, how would that then look, and what will then happen? Were you part of that?
I was part of it anyway.
You were part of it, yeah. Okay. So what I'm thinking of here is that what kind of results do we need? What I mean, we have planted a lot of seeds for 150 years. Some of them are extremely efficient. Some of them are really profitable. But what seeds do we need to plant now? What is this? How can we? What is the sowing? What should we? What kind of seeds should we place there?
I mean, I think that the seminars were it was before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
However, now we see to build resilience in a system that cope with totally external factors that you can't foresee. I've learned many organizations how to regain or relook on themselves for not just a 6 months perspective, not at least the public sector.
Yeah. Well, what I think I've seen now the past year is that there's a really the seeds are there really. It's how do we make them grow, because it's everybody, very many see the opportunity or the necessity to work together to solve worthwhile problems, to solve really big problems, and it's but people or organizations are stumbling. How do I actually work with my competitors? It's people, organizations really don't know that yet.
No, and maybe as long as we see them as competitors, we will have a problem. So maybe we need to see them as co-creators of a joint experience or something like that. I don't know.
Yes, but I think most organizations are there in that. Currently, we need to work together, but I've always thought about them as my competitors.
Yeah, there is something there. Maybe we should just wrap this little conversation up. Soon our time is up, and the next concept is eager to get into the studio, I guess. And what I'm thinking here is that if you get to choose one assumption for the future you would like to do, and to have it as a new truth, what would that be? Is that a good checkout?
Yeah, I think cooperation is one of the strongest future goals you have to set, to work with your partners outside, and it's not a question of competition; it's a question of growing together.
I fully agree there. But coming back a little bit to what Mats also said about this price, I think that because price is what is really transparent when you buy something, you know what the price is then and what you're paying. But the rest of the product or service is not as transparent, and we need to work to see how can we make the rest of the product or service transparent, so we understand what that is really. And I think this requires quite a bit of openness from and like humbleness from the providers. See, this is what we have, what we're doing, and well, if is there anything better we could do here? So.
Okay, so I can also make my checkout. I would like to use the assumption that trust is a choice. And here comes someone in. That's nice. Oh, went away. What I'm thinking of here is that how can we choose trust as a quality for our quality systems? Or not how, then I need to redefine it as a definition. Then let's define a choice for trust as a quality for our quality systems. That's what I would go for. Thank you very much, Pontus Røystedt and Mats Rosén, for being here with me for this occasion and taking engaged part in the dialogue of how can we use trust to reimagine or redefine our way of working in our organizations and between them. And yeah, something else you want to say before we close the stream?
There would be too many things to say, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Then we just say bye for now and
Yeah,
take
bye
care,
for now.
everyone.